Just for the record, this is February 13th, 2010. It's Jerry Allen interviewing Terry Wolverton in Sherry Gawke's studio in Los Angeles, California.
I was a theater student in Detroit, and I was very much influenced by by Black culture and the Black Power movement of the late 60s that was so prominent in Detroit. I was really socially engaged. I watched all the stuff about the civil rights movement on TV. I had started to participate in some anti-Vietnam War marches even while I was in high school. You know, I was all part of that moment, and I felt really engaged in that moment. I couldn't put together my feminism and my creativity. There was no space that allowed both those things. The women's movement did not understand my desire to be an artist, and the people I was hanging out with in theater did not understand my feminism, let alone my lesbianism. And it just was, I felt kind of despairing. And then I read about the Women's Building. And I just thought, I'd never been to California. I had never thought I would go to California. Because when you grow up in Detroit, you think I'll go to New York. But I just thought, I have to go there. I'm going there. I come to this place, I don't know anybody. I've probably got $400 to my name. I don't have a job. I don't really know anybody. And yet, there was a faith that I would be received into this community. And in fact, I was received into this community. And people helped me in incredible ways. You know, they gave me a ride to places. They helped me, suggested places I could find a job. It was just kind of amazing how it all worked out. In February of 1977, Arlene did a lesbian art work sharing that was at the building, and Cheryl and I were fighting that day, and I didn't go. I had planned to go. I had thought, finally, here's a lesbian thing that I was so hungering for. Arlene had a second one at her home in Venice, and I did go to that, and it was great, and everybody was sharing their work. And at that meeting, Arlene said, I've decided I want to embark formally on an art historical investigation of lesbian art. And would anybody like to do that with me? And several of us in the room raised our hands, like, are you kidding? Of course we want to do that. So I believe at that time Arlene said this will be a lesbian art project. So I think she coined that name. We started to meet, and like really quickly, this project morphed from, we're just going to do some art historical research, into we're going to take over the world with lesbian culture. And each of us had a particular thing we wanted to explore. We wanted to do an educational program. We wanted to do lesbian art events. We wanted to do a big media campaign to promote lesbian art and artists. We wanted to do a travel around the country and around the world and spread the word about lesbian art. It was hugely ambitious. And we'd have these meetings, and we did some stuff. We did the lesbian art fashion show that was the kickoff for the thrift store that Nan Fried opened. We did the first of a lesbian straight dialogue that happened within the Feminist Studio workshop. And Arlene had a perspective that was really fabulous. She said, the model that you have to make something really big out in the world and tell everybody about it. She said, that's a male model. And she encouraged me to see the value of the subversive, the underground, what happens if you go really deeply into something, and the kind of energetic ripples that can create and the effect that can have in the world. So that she said, we don't have to write a bazillion grants, and we don't have to do this and do this and do that. Let's strip all of that away and let's just do what we really want to do. And some of those things were Arlene did do her art historical research, which was really quite groundbreaking. And we ran an educational program about lesbian art, and each of us taught parts of that, as well as we had guest people come in and teach parts of that. There was a kind of ongoing dialogue within the Feminist Studio Workshop about lesbianism and lesbian presence, and who was comfortable with that and who wasn't comfortable with that. And then I had my big performance projects that I wanted to do, which fit really nicely under the umbrella of the Lesbian Art Project. My next kind of gargantuan project was Oral History of Lesbianism, which several of you in this room were part of, which was another collaborative project. And this time we wanted to take on lesbianism as a topic, as a lifestyle, as a kind of larger meaning. That was one thing about the Lesbian Art Project, was that we were always looking to analyze or define, not define in a limiting way, but really analyze what is the deeper meaning of lesbian life and culture. That it's not just a sexual choice, or it's not just a gender choice, that it's really a cultural choice, and what is that? So we wanted to explore that in this piece. There were 13 of us in that group, and similarly we did a several weeks long workshop process to kind of reveal our own content. We did theater games, we did consciousness raising groups, we did writing exercises, just kind of generating the big pool of content. Then we kind of came together and looked at, so what do we do with all this content? And that was very much a collective brainstorming process. Like, let's keep that, let's explore that, let's turn this into that, let's trim that, let's deal with this another way. And then we began to put it together and rehearse it. And again, there were people who became interested to collaborate with us. Bea Lowe and Sherry helped design this incredible set for us. And then when the audience entered into this space, which was very pink and it kind of glowed like this lantern. And so you entered this very welcoming, very luminous space. And it was as if you were entering into a lesbian bar, and there was dance music, and the audience was invited to come dance with us, with the cast, before we started, and then we segued into the performance of the piece. We ended the project in the summer of '79. She went on to do a project called Woman, Woman Works, which was an exhibit that was at the building, and I went on to join with a group of people to do the Great American Lesbian Art Show, which was a national project that was based at the Women's Building, but it happened in a lot of other places too. I feel like the Women's Building in that configuration could only have happened in Los Angeles. And it was a combination of a couple things. One is that at the time, there wasn't so much of an art world. There wasn't a high-stakes art world here. There was a museum, there were some galleries, but there wasn't the kind of fierce competition and, I'm going to make my career here in Los Angeles. You pretty much had to leave Los Angeles, make your career, and then you could come back. So that gave a lot of permission. So you can really try stuff out here and dream big. And that was enormously important to the kind of institution the Women's Building was, which was a place where you got an idea, girl, you go for it. And we'll try to help you, but you have to figure it out because nobody's going to do it for you. One of the reasons I think the Women's Building closed when it did, there's all the reasons of money and burnout, but I really think that when I talk about it now, I think we had exhausted our mission. When the building started, there was this fervent mission. the need was clear. Many, many women agreed with the need. There was this tremendous hunger, and it was like wildfire, the way that it spread. And it was this huge magnetic force that drew people there. It is our success and not our failure that after almost 2 decades of the women's building, that need was really diminished. You know, when we started, there were no women, or there were hardly any women in any galleries in the city. You know all the story. But by the mid-'80s, there were tons of women in the galleries. There were tons of women running the galleries. There were tons of women exhibiting in the galleries. And yes, there was still a glass ceiling. I don't mean to suggest everything's fine. But women's participation in the arts was exponentially greater than it had been before the women's building started.